I want to begin with a simple idea that has the power to change everything about the way you see your life. It isn't complicated. It doesn't require a special degree, extraordinary talent, or perfect circumstances. It requires one thing, a decision. Not 10 decisions, not 100. Just one genuine decision that comes from the deepest part of who you are. Because the truth is, you are always one decision away from a completely new life. Now, most people underestimate the power of a decision because they confuse it with a wish. They say, I wish things were different. I wish I had more money. I wish I had started earlier. I wish I had more confidence. But wishing has never built a business. Wishing has never repaired a relationship. Wishing has never transformed a body, a career, or a future. Decisions do those things. A wish hopes that life changes. A decision declares that you will change, and when you change, life begins to respond. Think about every major turning point you've ever experienced. Maybe it was choosing a career. Maybe it was walking away from something that no longer served you. Maybe it was saying yes to an opportunity that frightened you. In every case, your life didn't change because the calendar changed. It didn't change because the weather improved or because someone finally believed in you. It changed because at one specific moment you made a choice. The fascinating part is that the moment itself often looks ordinary. There are no fireworks. There is no dramatic music playing in the background. It might happen while you're driving home from work, sitting alone in your room, or looking at yourself in the mirror. Suddenly, something inside you says, enough. Enough settling. Enough excuses. Enough waiting for permission. That quiet moment can become the dividing line between the person you were and the person you're about to become. Here's what I want you to understand. Your past is valuable because it teaches lessons. But it is a terrible place to build a home. Too many people spend years carrying yesterday like a heavy suitcase. They define themselves by old mistakes, missed opportunities, failures, disappointments, and criticism. They replay the same stories until those stories become their identity. But your history is not your destiny. It is simply evidence that you've lived, learned, stumbled, and survived. The next chapter has not been written yet. The remarkable thing about life is that it does not ask where you've been nearly as much as it asks where you're willing to go. Every sunrise gives you another opportunity to decide again. You can continue repeating yesterday, or you can choose something different. And once that decision becomes real, your actions begin to align with it. Your habits begin to shift. Your conversations begin to change. The opportunities you notice become different because your focus has changed. People often ask why some individuals seem to transform so dramatically. They assume there must have been one lucky break or one magical opportunity. But if you look closely, you'll usually discover something much simpler. Long before anyone else noticed the change, that person made a private decision. They decided they would no longer accept average. They decided to become a student instead of making excuses. They decided to get up earlier, learn new skills, improve their attitude, and take responsibility for the direction of their life. The visible success came later. The invisible decision came first. You don't have to solve every problem today. You don't need every answer before you begin. You simply need to make one honest decision about the direction you're going to move. A ship changes its destination the moment the captain turns the wheel. The ocean doesn't disappear. The waves don't become smaller. The wind doesn't suddenly become perfect. But everything changes because the direction has changed. Your life works the same way. There will always be reasons to postpone your decision. The timing won't seem perfect. Someone will doubt you. Your own mind will whisper that you're not ready, not experienced enough, not talented enough. If you listen to every excuse, you'll stay exactly where you are. But if you make a firm decision, something powerful begins to happen. Your mind starts searching for solutions instead of problems. Your energy shifts from hesitation to action. You begin attracting possibilities that were always there, but hidden behind your uncertainty. Remember this, successful people are not people who never faced obstacles. They are people who decided that obstacles would not get the final word. They chose persistence over surrender. They chose growth over comfort. They chose faith over fear. Those choices, repeated consistently, created lives that once seemed impossible. So don't wait for your circumstances to improve before you decide to improve yourself. Make the decision first and let your actions prove it every single day. Because the moment you truly decide, your future begins to move in a different direction. Your new life doesn't begin tomorrow. It begins with the decision you make today. Now, once you've made that decision, something interesting happens. You begin to realize that the greatest obstacle standing between you and the life you want was never the economy, your background, your age, or even the people around you. More often than not, the greatest obstacle was indecision. Not making the wrong choice, making no choice at all. Indecision is one of the quietest thieves you'll ever meet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock on your door and tell you it's about to rob you of your future. It simply whispers, wait a little longer. Think about it tomorrow, maybe next month, perhaps when everything is perfect. Before you know it, days become months, months become years, and years become a lifetime of wondering what might have been. I've seen people spend more time deciding whether they should begin than it would have taken to become successful if they had simply started. They study every possibility. They analyze every risk. They ask everyone for advice. They collect information until they become experts in preparation and amateurs in execution. Knowledge is valuable, but knowledge without action is like owning seeds you never plant. You admire the potential, but you never enjoy the harvest. Fear often disguises itself as caution. We tell ourselves we're just being careful, when in reality we're protecting ourselves from discomfort. We say we need one more course, one more book, one more sign, one more guarantee. But life doesn't hand out guarantees. It hands out opportunities, and those opportunities usually arrive wearing work clothes. Think about a child learning to walk. That child doesn't wait until balance is perfect. They don't read books on walking or attend seminars about taking the first step. They stand up, they fall down, they stand up again, and eventually they walk with confidence. Imagine if they approached life the way many adults do. They would still be sitting on the floor, waiting for certainty. Somewhere along the way, we become afraid of making mistakes. We begin to believe that one wrong decision will ruin everything. But here's the truth. Most wrong decisions can be corrected. Indecision, however, cannot reward you because it never moves you anywhere. A wrong turn teaches you something. Standing still teaches you very little. The people you admire aren't successful because every decision they made was perfect. They became successful because they made decisions, learned from the results, adjusted their course, and kept moving forward. Progress belongs to those who are willing to improve, not those who insist on being perfect before they begin. There is another danger hidden inside indecision. It slowly convinces you that your current situation is permanent. The longer you stay where you are, the more normal it begins to feel. Comfort has a strange way of becoming a prison, not because it's painful, but because it's familiar. Human beings can become comfortable with lives they don't even enjoy simply because they've lived them for so long. That's why growth always asks something from you. It asks you to leave the familiar behind. It asks you to trade certainty for possibility. It asks you to become willing to feel awkward before you feel accomplished. Every meaningful achievement begins with a season where you don't yet look like the person you're becoming. You don't build confidence by waiting. You build confidence by acting. Every small step sends a message to your mind. I can do difficult things. Every promise you keep to yourself strengthens your character. Every action weakens fear just a little more. Before long, the thing that once intimidated you becomes part of who you are. Don't underestimate the cost of waiting. While you're postponing your decision, life keeps moving. Opportunities don't remain parked forever. Time doesn't pause because you're uncertain. Every day you hesitate is a day you could have been learning, growing, improving, and becoming stronger. The price of indecision is often invisible at first, but eventually it becomes impossible to ignore. Here's something worth remembering. The road ahead rarely becomes clear before you begin walking. It becomes clear because you begin walking. Direction creates clarity. Movement creates momentum. Action creates confidence. Sitting still creates doubt. So when your mind tells you to wait until you feel fearless, understand that fearlessness isn't the requirement. Courage is. Courage simply says, I'm willing to move, even though I don't know exactly how everything will turn out. That's the mindset that changes lives. That's the mindset that separates dreamers from achievers. Every successful journey starts with someone refusing to let uncertainty make their decisions. They choose to move. They choose to learn. They choose to grow. And every step they take opens doors they never could have seen from where they were standing. Don't let indecision write the story of your life. Make the choice, take the step, and let momentum become your greatest ally. Once you've made the decision to move forward instead of standing still, there's another lesson that becomes incredibly important. Many people expect life to change overnight. They believe one big opportunity, one lucky break, or one dramatic moment will suddenly transform everything. But that's not how lasting success is built. While one decision can change the direction of your life, it is the small decisions you make every day that determine how far that new direction will take you. Life is not shaped by what you do once in a while. It is shaped by what you do consistently. The future isn't created in giant leaps nearly as often as it is created in small, repeated steps. That's encouraging because it means you don't have to become extraordinary overnight. You simply have to become a little better today than you were yesterday, and then repeat that process again tomorrow. Look at nature for a moment. A mighty oak tree doesn't appear in a single afternoon. It grows one day at a time. You can't see the change from one sunrise to the next, yet year after year it becomes stronger, taller, and more resilient. Success follows the same principle. The daily progress may seem invisible, but over time the results become impossible to ignore. The challenge is that small decisions rarely feel important in the moment. Choosing to wake up a little earlier doesn't seem life-changing. Reading 10 pages of a good book doesn't seem remarkable. Saving a small amount of money, making one extra sales call, practicing a skill for 30 minutes, taking a walk instead of sitting on the couch, none of these actions will make headlines tomorrow. But together, they quietly build the person you are becoming. Every decision is casting a vote for your future. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you're voting for a stronger version of yourself. Every time you choose learning over excuses, you're investing in tomorrow. Every time you honor a commitment you made to yourself, you're building self-respect. And self-respect is one of the greatest assets you can ever possess, because once you trust yourself, you stop depending on motivation to carry you forward. Too many people wait until they feel inspired before they act. But inspiration is a wonderful visitor and a terrible employee. It doesn't show up every morning at the same time discipline does. Discipline says, I'll do what needs to be done whether I feel like it or not. That's where real freedom comes from, not doing whatever feels good in the moment, but doing what produces a better life in the future. Think about the people who accomplish extraordinary things. From a distance, it looks like they possess some special gift. But if you could watch their ordinary days, you would probably be surprised. You would see routines. You would see consistency. You would see them making the same productive choices over and over again while everyone else was waiting for perfect conditions. Great achievements are usually the result of ordinary actions performed with extraordinary consistency. One healthy meal doesn't transform your body. One workout doesn't make you strong. One conversation doesn't build a lasting relationship. One day of hard work doesn't create financial independence. But repeat those actions long enough, and suddenly your life begins to look completely different. That's the magic of consistency. It multiplies small efforts into remarkable outcomes. Never underestimate the power of compound growth. We often think of compounding in terms of money, but it applies to every area of life. Knowledge compounds, character compounds, confidence compounds, skills compound, healthy habits compound, even kindness compounds. The little things you do every day are quietly accumulating, whether they are helping you or hurting you. That's why it's so important to pay attention to the seemingly insignificant choices. The quality of your life is rarely determined by one dramatic event. More often, it's determined by hundreds of small decisions repeated over months and years. Those decisions become habits. Habits become character. Character becomes destiny. Now, don't become discouraged if your progress feels slow. Slow progress is still progress. A person who improves 1% every day may not notice much difference after a week, but after a year, they'll hardly recognize the person they've become. The greatest mistake is not moving slowly. The greatest mistake is stopping altogether. There will be days when you don't feel like continuing. There will be mornings when the alarm feels heavier than your dreams. There will be moments when your results seem too small to matter. Those are the moments that define your future. Anyone can continue when it's exciting. Champions continue when it's repetitive. They understand that today's unseen effort becomes tomorrow's visible success. Remember, your habits are always working for you or against you. Every day, they are taking you somewhere. The question is simple. Are your daily choices carrying you toward the life you decided you wanted, or are they quietly leading you back to the place you promised yourself you would leave? Don't focus on making one perfect day. Focus on winning today. Then wake up tomorrow and win that day too. Stack enough good days together and you'll create a life that once seemed impossible. Success isn't built in the spotlight. It's built in the quiet moments when nobody is watching. But you choose to stay faithful to the decision you made. Your future is never created by one extraordinary day. It is created by the ordinary days you refuse to waste. As those daily decisions begin to shape your future, you'll eventually discover something that surprises many people. Changing your life isn't only about adding new habits or learning new skills. It's also about letting go. Every meaningful transformation asks you to release something before you can receive something greater. You cannot carry yesterday into tomorrow and expect tomorrow to look different. One of the hardest things for people to let go of is the old version of themselves. We become attached to our own identity, even when that identity is holding us back. We start saying things like, that's just the way I am. I've never been disciplined. I'm not good with money. I've always been shy. Success just isn't for people like me. The more we repeat those statements, the more they begin to sound like facts. But they are not facts. They are conclusions. And conclusions can be changed the moment you decide to write a different story. The person you were 5 years ago made decisions based on the knowledge, experiences, and beliefs you had at that time. Hopefully, you've learned something since then. Hopefully, you've grown. So why keep introducing yourself to the world with an outdated version of who you are? Growth requires you to give yourself permission to become someone new. Too many people spend years defending limitations they should have abandoned long ago. They explain why they can't instead of discovering how they can. They protect old excuses because excuses are familiar, and familiarity often feels safer than responsibility. But responsibility is where your power begins. The moment you accept responsibility for your future, you stop waiting for someone else to rescue you. You realize that while you may not control everything that happens to you, you always control the attitude you bring and the choices you make. That realization is incredibly freeing. It means your future is no longer held hostage by your past. It means yesterday doesn't get to vote on tomorrow unless you keep inviting it into the conversation. There are people still carrying disappointment from years ago. Someone criticized them, and they're still living inside those words. Someone doubted them, and they've made that doubt their identity. A business failed, so they decided they were a failure. A relationship ended, so they concluded they weren't worthy of love or respect. But events are not identities. Failure is something that happens. It is not someone you become. Think about a sculptor standing in front of a large block of marble. To create something beautiful, the sculptor doesn't keep adding more and more stone. Quite the opposite. The masterpiece appears because unnecessary pieces are removed. Your life works much the same way. Sometimes your greatest growth comes not from adding something new, but from removing what no longer belongs. Perhaps you need to remove the habit of blaming others. Perhaps you need to remove constant negativity. Perhaps you need to let go of comparison, resentment, fear, or the need for everyone's approval. Every one of those things takes up valuable space that could be filled with confidence, gratitude, wisdom, and purpose. One of the biggest traps in life is believing you must continue living a certain way simply because you've always lived that way. That's not loyalty, that's limitation. Your habits may explain where you are today, but they don't have to decide where you'll be tomorrow. I've often found that people become uncomfortable when they begin to grow. Not because growth is wrong, but because growth changes relationships. When you start thinking differently, acting differently, and pursuing bigger goals, not everyone will understand. Some people will encourage you. Others will question you. A few may even try to pull you back toward the version of you that made them feel comfortable. Don't let that discourage you. Remember, not everyone is assigned to travel the entire journey with you. Some people are part of a chapter, not the whole book. Appreciate what they contributed, but don't sacrifice your future to preserve someone else's expectations. You weren't created to remain the same forever. You were created to grow. The beautiful thing about personal growth is that it doesn't ask you to become someone fake. It asks you to become more fully who you were capable of being all along. The discipline was already inside you. The courage was already inside you. The potential was already there. It simply needed to be uncovered beneath years of doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs. And here's another truth worth remembering. Every day gives you another opportunity to introduce yourself to life again. You are not required to keep repeating old mistakes simply because you've made them before. You are not obligated to carry beliefs that no longer serve you. You are free to make new decisions, adopt new habits, and create a new standard for yourself. The moment you stop saying, "This is who I am," and start saying, "This is who I'm becoming," everything begins to change. Your choices become intentional, your confidence becomes stronger, your future becomes larger than your history. So don't be afraid to outgrow the person you used to be. Thank that version of yourself for getting you this far, then leave it behind with gratitude. Because every new level of life requires a new level of thinking, a new level of discipline, and a new level of belief. You cannot step into a new future while clinging to an old identity. Once you've begun letting go of the old version of yourself, you'll notice another challenge waiting for you. It's one that stops countless people from ever reaching the life they dream about. They convince themselves they'll take action when they feel ready. They believe confidence comes first and action comes second. But life teaches the opposite lesson. Action comes first and confidence follows. Think about it for a moment. How many opportunities have people missed because they kept telling themselves, "I'm not ready yet"? They postpone starting the business until they know everything. They delay writing the book until every sentence is perfect. They wait to improve their health until next Monday. They put off chasing their dreams until life becomes less busy. But somehow that perfect moment never arrives. The truth is, readiness is often an illusion. If you wait until you feel completely prepared, you'll spend much of your life waiting. Every worthwhile opportunity carries a measure of uncertainty. Every meaningful goal asks you to step beyond what is familiar. If you only move when you feel comfortable, you'll remain exactly where comfort has always kept you. Look back at the greatest achievements in your own life. Chances are you didn't begin them with complete certainty. You learned as you went. You figured things out one step at a time. You became stronger because the journey required you to grow. Had you waited until you possessed every answer, you probably never would have started. That's how growth works. It doesn't hand you confidence before the challenge. It gives you confidence because you accepted the challenge. Fear has an interesting way of speaking to us. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it sounds very reasonable. It says, maybe later. Let's wait until the timing is better. What if people criticize you? What if you fail? But fear rarely asks the most important question. What if you succeed? Imagine how many remarkable lives have remained hidden because someone allowed fear to make decisions on their behalf. Dreams have expired not because people lacked ability, but because they lacked the courage to begin before they felt ready. Here's something worth remembering. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is deciding that something else is more important than fear. Every courageous person you've ever admired has experienced uncertainty. They simply refused to let uncertainty become the final authority. Picture an airplane sitting on the runway it was designed to fly, but as long as it remains parked, it fulfills none of its purpose. Taking off requires tremendous energy. There's resistance. There's acceleration. There's noise. But once it leaves the ground, everything changes. Many people live their entire lives sitting safely on the runway, admiring the sky while never experiencing the freedom they were created for. Your dreams don't need your admiration nearly as much as they need your commitment. One reason people hesitate is because they expect the first attempt to be perfect. They assume successful people got everything right the first time. Nothing could be further from the truth. Every master was once a beginner. Every expert was once inexperienced. Every confident speaker once felt nervous. Every successful entrepreneur once questioned whether anyone would believe in their idea. The difference wasn't talent alone. The difference was that they started anyway. You learn by doing. You improve by repeating. You gain wisdom by making mistakes and correcting them. Experience cannot be downloaded from a book or borrowed from another person. It must be earned through action. Don't become so afraid of making mistakes that you miss making progress. Mistakes are temporary. Regret has a way of lasting much longer. Years from now, you'll probably forget many of the small failures you experienced. But you'll always remember the opportunities you never pursued because you talked yourself out of trying. There comes a point when thinking becomes an excuse. Planning is valuable. Preparation is important. But eventually, preparation must lead to participation. There is no substitute for taking the first step. Every day offers a simple choice. You can continue collecting reasons why now isn't the time. Or you can decide that today is exactly the day your future begins. No one else can make that decision for you. Your family can't make it. Your friends can't make it. Your circumstances certainly won't make it. It belongs entirely to you. And here's the wonderful part. You don't have to transform your entire life this afternoon. You only have to take the next step. That's all success has ever asked of anyone. One step, then another, then another. Before long, you'll look back and realize the distance you traveled wasn't created by one giant leap. It was created by the courage to keep moving when you couldn't yet see the whole path. Your confidence will grow every time you keep a promise to yourself. Every action becomes proof that you're capable of more than you once believed. Every challenge you overcome expands your vision of what's possible. The person you become through the journey will always be more valuable than the destination itself. So stop asking whether you're ready. Ask instead whether you're willing. Because willingness opens doors that readiness never could. Life doesn't reward those who wait endlessly for certainty. It rewards those who are willing to begin, to learn, to adapt, and to keep going despite the unknown. The moment you choose action over hesitation, you stop living in possibility and start living in progress. And progress, no matter how small, will always carry you farther than perfect intentions left undone. Don't wait to feel ready. Decide, step forward, and let your courage introduce you to the life that's been waiting for you. Now we've arrived at the point where everything comes together. You've seen that one decision can change the direction of your life. You've recognized that indecision quietly steals opportunities. You've learned that small daily choices shape extraordinary futures. You've accepted that becoming someone new requires letting go of who you used to be. And you've discovered that confidence doesn't come before action. It grows because of action. All of those lessons lead to one final truth. Your new life begins the moment you commit. There is a world of difference between being interested and being committed. People who are merely interested will do what's convenient. They'll work on their goals when they feel inspired. They'll stay disciplined as long as everything is going well. They'll continue until life becomes uncomfortable. But commitment speaks a different language. Commitment says, I've made my decision, and I'm not negotiating with myself anymore. That's the kind of decision that changes lives. When you become committed, something powerful happens inside you. Your excuses begin to lose their influence. Your priorities become clearer. Your energy becomes focused. Instead of asking, should I keep going? You begin asking, what's the next step? That's a completely different way of living. Too many people spend their lives hoping things will improve while refusing to make the level of commitment improvement requires. They hope their finances will change, but they don't commit to learning new skills. They hope their relationships improve, but they don't commit to becoming a better listener or a more patient person. They hope their health gets better, but they don't commit to the habits that produce lasting strength. Hope is valuable. It gives you vision, but commitment gives hope a pair of hands. The remarkable thing about commitment is that it changes your identity. The moment you truly commit, you stop seeing yourself as someone who is trying. You become someone who does what they said they would do. That shift may seem small, but it changes everything. When your identity changes, your behavior naturally follows. Imagine someone deciding to climb a mountain. If they're simply curious, they'll turn back when the trail becomes difficult. But if they've committed to reaching the summit, every obstacle becomes part of the journey instead of a reason to quit. The mountain doesn't become easier. The weather doesn't suddenly cooperate. The path remains steep. The difference is found in the person making the climb. Life works exactly the same way. There will still be setbacks. There will still be disappointments. There will still be days when your progress feels painfully slow. Commitment doesn't remove obstacles. It gives you the strength to move through them. That's why committed people often achieve what talented but inconsistent people never do. Talent is wonderful. Intelligence is valuable. Opportunity certainly helps. But commitment has a way of multiplying every other quality you possess. It keeps you learning after others stop. It keeps you working after others become discouraged. It keeps you believing after others surrender. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is becoming someone who honors your own word. If you promise yourself you'll read every day, read every day. If you promise yourself you'll improve your health, keep that promise. If you decide to build something meaningful, continue even when no one applauds your effort. Every promise you keep to yourself strengthens your confidence. Every promise you break weakens it. Confidence isn't built by talking to yourself in the mirror. It's built by proving to yourself day after day that your word has value. Never underestimate how much your future depends on the standards you refuse to compromise. Successful people don't simply have bigger dreams. They often have stronger standards. They decide what they will no longer tolerate from themselves. They refuse to accept constant procrastination. They refuse to make excuses their permanent residence. They refuse to let temporary emotions control permanent decisions. There comes a moment in every meaningful life when you stop asking life to become easier and start asking yourself to become stronger. That's the moment commitment becomes real. And here's something beautiful to remember. You don't need to change the entire world today. You don't need to accomplish every goal before the sun goes down. You only need to remain faithful to the decision you've already made. Great lives are built exactly that way. Committed day after another. Years from now, people may look at your success and assume it happened quickly. They'll see the results without seeing the quiet mornings, the disciplined evenings, the difficult choices, the sacrifices, and the countless moments when you chose to continue even though quitting would have been easier. They will admire the destination, but you'll know the truth. It wasn't one spectacular moment that changed your life. It was your refusal to abandon the commitment you made to yourself. So as you leave here today, don't leave with another notebook full of ideas that never become action. Don't leave inspired for a few hours only to return to the same habits tomorrow. Leave with one clear decision. Decide who you're going to become. Decide what you will no longer accept. Decide what habits you'll build. Decide what dreams deserve your full commitment. Because the future isn't waiting for a more talented version of you. It isn't waiting for a luckier version of you. It is waiting for the version of you that finally decides, commits, and follows through. Remember this whenever doubt tries to return. Your past may explain where you've been, but it never has the authority to define where you're going. Every sunrise places another decision in your hands. Every day gives you another opportunity to honor the commitment you've made. And every small act of discipline moves you one step closer to the life you once believed was out of reach. The life you've been waiting for begins the moment your commitment becomes stronger than your excuses.